Yo, what's up everybody, Isaac here, coming to you with another New World video. So today's video is going to be what you should do the moment you hit 60 on a budget. So I already did one video on, I think the best route, the first thing you should do when you hit 60 to get yourself set up to work towards M10 PVE dungeons. Well, I'm going to give you my suggestion on the first thing I think you should do the moment you hit 60 on an extreme budget to get yourself set up for PVE gear. That is going to involve going run the hatchery. So a lot of people are intimidated to run the hatchery getting started, but realistically you can run the hatchery the moment that you turn level 60. So let's show you how you can do that. So I am on my main character because I can afford to spend a little bit of more gold just randomly. So we're going to buy ourselves a full setup for hatchery, and we're going to check how much it's going to cost. I haven't looked at the trading post yet, but I just did this I think yesterday with my fresh 60 character, but let's see what's available on the market. So we're going to buy ourselves a full setup to be a tank in the hatchery. So we're going to select our perks that we want, and we want human ward. That's the only thing we're worried about, human ward. That's all we need. We don't need anything else, and preferably we want it to be strength or dex or con, but we're just gonna hit, well, actually the other thing, we want it to be a minimum of 590 gear. So once we have that all taken care of, we're going to come over to apparel. We're going to select heavy armor, and we'll start with our headpiece. What's the cheapest one we can find? Oh well, unfortunately the cheapest one we can find is 50 gold. So a little bit more than I spent on my other character already, but well, that's still respectably cheap. And the nice thing is that was actually a really good piece. That's a piece that we could take all the way to M10. So 50 gold for a piece that's going to be M10 viable. We cannot go wrong with that. So we have our headpiece, and I'm going to keep track of that. So 50 gold spent on our head. Next, our chest piece. So it's going to vary day to day how much it's going to cost you to do this. My set I managed to buy for about all 5 pieces of armor for less than 100 gold total. So hopefully we can get luckier here. I see there's a pair of boots that's going to work for us very nicely, but chest piece. So we're hoping that it can be at least strength, con, dex. You know, you could get away with you could get away with buying this piece and it would actually work for you. So this would be on an extreme budget, but let's just say that we're willing to spend 50 gold per piece or something like that. Well, the other thing, look at this piece, another piece that is actually M10 viable. This is perfect. This is what I would actually look for if I was looking to buy a full setup for M10 gear. Chest piece with strength and dexterity, sturdy energy. I absolutely love to have this. So I'm not even looking for second perks, but I'm actually finding my first 2 pieces full M10 legit pieces for 50 gold each. That's kind of crazy. So we're gonna buy that chest piece. So we're up to 100 gold already, but you know, that's actually more than I was hoping to spend. But these are M10 viable pieces for 50 gold a piece. Yeah, you cannot go wrong there. So our gloves, what are we gonna find here? Well, we're gonna actually go super cheap on this one. And well, when I did this on my other character, I found the pieces for like 10 gold. So I must have bought out the cheapies. So well, fair warning, the sooner you do this the better, but other people might take advantage of this as well. But this one, it's gonna be just a 1 perker, human ward, but we do have a gem slot, which is handy. So you could actually take this piece all the way up to M10 too if you wanted, but otherwise you could come down here, but this isn't gonna help. This piece right here for 200 gold, it's not one ounce better than this piece for 50 gold. So we got our gloves for 50 gold. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with that pair of gloves to take care of the task at hand. And we're gonna look for our leg wear here. Ooh, we're running into a problem with this piece. So unfortunately this one is gonna be spendy, but the nice thing about this one, it would be legit to take this one right up to M10. It actually has a second perk that's pretty viable as a tank. Refreshing ward, reduce active cooldowns by 1.8% after being hit 4 times. So this isn't my go-to for endgame tanking, but it's still very, very, very legit to take you all the way up to M10. So unfortunately this piece is more expensive than I was hoping. Like I said, on my other character I bought all 5 pieces of armor for less than 100 gold. It might have been somewhere around 50 to 80. I just found every piece for like 10 to 20 gold. So there we go. How much was that one? 250, I think. So legs costed us 250. And like I said, unfortunately this is turning to be more expensive than I was hoping. On my other character I managed to do this haul for 100 gold on my armor, but that's the way she goes. It is going to vary day to day what is on the market. So well, we're going to get fortunate here, and we are finding one for 9 gold. But let's just take a look just in case there's any that are kind of endgame viable for really cheap. Nope, these all have bad stats except that one, but this one at least it has a gem slot, and it's just a 1 perker, but that's honestly all we're looking. This is what I would hope for. I would hope I would find all 5 pieces for like 10 gold. And you could get away with using this one too. Intelligence is obviously not going to help you at all as a tank, but you know, just to get you started, just to get you in for dirt cheap, this would be fine. But we're lucky that we got one for 9 gold here, even cheaper and the right attributes. So I'm gonna go ahead and buy that one, 9 gold. And let's see our amulet. So the main thing that we want to have here, flame protection, and obviously we're going to get rid of that human ward, and we're just going to go ahead and hit apply, and well, amulets. So we're just going to try to find the cheapest super viable one. Ideally it has the right attributes here, but if it didn't, we could buy this one for 25 gold, and we might even do that just, you know, for the sake of our budget on this specific build. But otherwise, let's take a look what they have for the other possible health. Ooh, this one this one's just crazy good for the price. We're gonna go ahead and buy this one because even though it has 9 focus, for the purpose of what this is just simply a build to get us yeah, just to make us super survivable in the dungeon. So let's see, 9 focus, we're gonna get away with that. We're gonna go, this is the perfect health, flame protection. That's the ideal thing, but mainly you're just looking for flame protection and hopefully strength, dex, con here. But like I said, this is just mainly for this flame protection, so you take less fire damage, and that's going to be all that you need. Perfectly fine. You could get away with this one for 25 gold, but we're going to buy this one since it's almost perfect minus the 9 focus, and it's only 100 gold. So we'll buy that one. And for our ring, and we're not gonna be that super picky about our ring, but for our ring I think the main thing that we're gonna look for is leeching, because that's going to help us in a couple of situations. So let's just go ahead and see what we can find for dirt cheap. Let's see, unfortunately there's nothing dirt cheap. Honestly, you could get away with this one. You would be perfectly fine with this ring right here. So what is the next thing up that we could buy? Dex. Refreshing, evasion, leeching. So that one would be pretty darn good, and that one would be 200 gold, and it would work for quite a bit for us. But let's just take a look a little bit further down if there's anything that's going to be, you know, a little bit better that might work in more situations for us. Refreshing, leeching. Nah, that's refreshing, evasion, leeching. So this one right here would be well, it's got intelligence, and since it's 5, we don't, once we're getting like up to like 500 plus gold, we might as well just go back and buy the cheapy. So hardy leeching, this one would be awesome. So we're kind of at a crossroads with our ring. You could buy this ring right here, and it's going to be end game viable right up till M10 for you as a tank. This would be the ideal 2-perker. Hardy, leeching, and it would be perfect. But since that is 700 gold, and we're trying to do this on more of the extreme budget side of things, well, we're just going to go ahead and buy this leeching ring. So, just a 1-perker, a blue one. Probably is gonna sound silly to you, but honestly that's all we need for the sake of this. What was that, 15 gold? I don't remember exactly, but that's what I'm entering in, 15 gold. And then our earring, let's go ahead and find one with refreshing toast. And the reality is, your jewelry, your weapons, you're probably going to already have something, I'm guessing, that's gonna work for you. Whatever you already have for your weapons, whatever you already have for your jewelry, they're probably gonna work. But we're going to do the full build. So let's try to find something with refreshing toast, healthy toast. This one's actually pretty darn good. So what's so good about this one? Well, if we click on it, healthy refreshing toast, this is the main one we're after, and we have the right attributes, constitution and strength, so we could have a 1-perker here, and it's gonna work just fine for what we're doing this build for. Potions cool down 28% faster than healthy toast. So the nice thing about this, when you drink a mana pot, gain 9.4% of your max health. So we can also slot mana potions into our gear slots, and well, we're going to have basically a weaker version of a health pot. So that's the one we're gonna buy. 250 for our, or no, 25 gold for our earring, and that's actually a very good one. So we are also going to go look at our weapons. We're going to buy a weapon, and it's really not that important for our weapon, but we are, just for the fun of it, we're gonna try and get a Bane weapon if we can. If we can't, if it's gonna be too expensive, we're not gonna worry too much about it. But so weapons, one-handed weapons, sword, and perfect. 30 gold. If we find a 2-perker for, okay, 39 versus 40, we're gonna go with the 40 one, because Shirking Frost is gonna help us do a little extra damage for 1 extra gold. So 40 gold for our sword, 40 gold, and what's the other thing we're probably gonna look for? You could definitely get away with a hatchet. Hatchet's got a nice big AoE taunt. Nothing wrong there. Warhammer's probably going to be your best option though, so let's see what we have. So that very first one is actually darn good. We have Vicious, which is going to help us do a little bit of extra damage. Not a crazy amount, but we also have Human Bane. So we're going to help do, you know, we're being a tank, so we're not going to be doing super large amounts of damage output. 22 gold for our hammer. We're going to call it good. Go ahead and buy that up. And then we also want a shield. So let's go back to adding human ward. Whoops, if I could spell that would be helpful. Human ward, apply, and apply. So where's our shields at? Shields. Then it doesn't matter. We could get away with a round shield, we could get away with a tower shield, and the perks do not matter at all. We could get away with a kite shield, but let's just take a peek what the perks are. So we have nature shield ward. That's not that great, but it's not going to help us at all for this. But sturdy is good, but literally we only need this one perk, and as long as we have the attributes right here, we're good. Let's just take a peek at what these other ones are here. They happen to be a touch better. Fortifying shield rush, that's actually pretty nice to have. Empowering breaker, human ward. So any of these would work, but since it is a budget build, I would potentially go with a kite shield because it has this fortifying shield rush and it's still only 44 gold. Tower shield's going to give us a little bit more survivability. It's only 13 gold. We have human ward, which is the only perk we need. We could, as long as we have human ward and try to get the stats in the right places. I don't know, do shields even come with wrong stats? I think they actually do, but none of these ones are showing any kind of a wrong stat here. So 13 gold for our shield. Very viable shield. And, well, that's our build. So how much did it cost us? 1 second here. 50, 100, 150, so 250, 350, so 250, 400, 500, 550. So basically 700 gold. We're just going to say that whole setup costed us 700 gold. So that's actually pretty darn good. So let's go ahead and put that set on. Most recent. Yep. 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 We are hammer 2. Oh, that's what this is doing. Let's not do that. Okay, here we go. And yeah. 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 So there we go. We have our full setup, and for our amulet, we could get away with this without doing this part, but the other thing that we're going to clear all these and hit apply so we can search for a ruby. And if a cut pristine ruby is going to be ideal, it's going to do the most damage mitigation. So if we can afford it, go ahead and buy one of these and slot it into your amulet. But the other thing we could do is, well, we could buy a cheaper version of this. So let's see what a cut ruby is going to cost us. So this one here, it's going to give us 4% fire damage absorption, and it's only going to cost us 7 gold. But what is the other version of this? A brilliant ruby, I think. Cut brilliant ruby. So this one would give us 5% fire absorption for 55 gold. So we're only going to lose 1% versus going pristine, and it's going to save us 100 gold. So we're just going to go ahead and buy this one, 50 gold. And you know, honestly, I would just get the cut pristine, but it's going to cost you 100 more gold. But since this is on a budget, we're going to go ahead and do that because we're only losing 1% fire damage mitigation. So where is that? We're going to just go ahead and slot that into our gem slot, and there you have it. A super legit full setup ready to go. So one thing, you can see my full gear score from all this stuff that I bought for roughly 700 gold, maybe almost 750 once we bought that gem. Well, it's 593. If you're fresh 60 and you still have 500 gear score expertise, it's going to average out to like roughly 550 or something instead. So this stuff is going to be a little less strong than once my expertise is up to 600 plus, but it's still going, you're still going to survive just fine. So I did just run some, do some runs on my I'll go ahead in the video. I'm going to give you a walkthrough, and I'm going to give you that walkthrough with my very first run on my alt character, and I think the gear score was maybe 560 or something. So there you have it, full absolutely legit setup for us to go and run the hatchery. We're gonna have really good survivability, and you know, you definitely can run the hatchery without a tank. It is handy though to have one tank that can hold the aggro, just to make everything predictable for the rest of your team, just to make the runs clean and efficient. If you have a strong group, sure, go all DPS, no tank, but you're definitely going to provide some value for your team. We're not going to do tons of damage, but we're going to have really good survivability. We have fully warded gear set, we have a shield that's even warded, and we have a amulet that's going to give us flame protection. And if you wanted, what's the other thing we could do that's going to give us even more survivability for an extremely minimal cost? We're going to find some more rubies. We're going to go with the cut rubies. Those were dirt cheap, right? So we could buy these rubies, which are going to give us 4% fire damage absorption. So the cut pristine ones, I think they gave us 6%, but those were 150 gold. These ones, they're only 7 gold, and they're still going to give us a bunch of fire damage absorption. So we're actually going to go ahead and buy one of these for each and every piece of armor that we have left over, including our jewelry. An additional 50 gold. So let's just say we're up to 800 gold now. So you could get away with this part, but it's still going to be worth it, honestly. So I personally would say just go ahead and do this. So there we go, there we go, there we go, there we go, there we go. So we're good to go there. And then for your weapons, you are actually going to need gems for these, since we are being the tank. Hopefully you're already aware of this, but honestly some people aren't aware of this. I've actually ran inside of dungeons, you know, somebody is the tank, but they don't have carnelians because they didn't know that a tank is supposed to have carnelians in their weapons. And why do you need carnelians? Because in order to do a taunt on your weapon, well, you must have a gem slotted. So if we read the information here, down at the bottom, you'll see it says taunt gem compatible if you have a carnelian. So there you go. If you have a carnelian gem equipped in your hammer, this ability will inflict a taunt. But if you don't have a carnelian weapon or gem in your weapon, then it's not going to inflict a taunt. So absolutely you must have a carnelian if you are trying to be the tank. So one thing, yeah, you just gotta have it. So you could get away with a lower level one, but usually carnelians are reasonably priced. So 100 gold each. We're gonna bite the bullet and we're gonna buy them. So we are up to 1,000 gold now for this setup. So you definitely could get away with less. I'm sure you already have jewelry pieces that are going to work. Hopefully you already have weapons that are going to work, but maybe you don't if you just hit 60, you haven't gotten any weapons yet. Well, you're gonna have a couple of weapons that are gonna work for you, both in this both in the hatchery, but also if you do the forge. So there you go. We're gonna take these, and you really should go with a tier 5 of these. You could get a lower tier 1 for cheaper, but they're usually, these are pretty cheap, 100 gold each. And you know, we're trying to be cheap, but we're not trying to be so cheap that our build isn't going to be effective. So there you have it, fully set up now. We have tons of damage mitigation. Let's look here. We have 42% fire damage resistance. That's massive. I think the most you can get is 50. So honestly, people will, you know, 42, that's even enough fire damage resistance to run in a mutation that has fire. That's a fire mutation. So we have crazy good fire damage resistance. Our survivability, it's going to be like through the roof on this build for 1,000 gold in the hatchery. So we're all set up. Our weapons got our taunt gems in them. That's actually a very important part. You really should be getting the tier 5 taunt gems, because you're going to lose some aggro potential if you do cheap out on these gems. But these ones, they're gonna be perfectly fine. We still get, once we have an amulet with flame protection. And to be fair, if you slot all of these gems, you can get away without having this amulet. But the other option, don't buy any gems and you could buy this amulet. But the cheaper option might be to buy these tier 3 gems for 7 gold a piece and just put them in everything, and you could get away without having this flame protection amulet. So there you have it. We are going to go ahead and show you our first walkthrough, and we're going to do it on our alt account just to show you that, you know, we are a lower gear score than this 593 and we still survive just fine. So let's jump into that. So let me jump in with one more thing real quick. I just wanted to show you the benefits of running the hatchery. Why is it so good? Well, let's go ahead and show you the drops that we got from the hatchery. So these are all minus a couple of these. Let's get rid of the ones that aren't. But all the rest of these are going to be stuff that we got from the hatchery, that including that one. So anything you see here that says season 2, it's going to have been from the hatchery runs that we did, which I think is basically almost everything left in here. There's a couple that aren't. This one might have even been. You get some named stuff from there. I don't remember for sure. Some of these might have been from something else, but nonetheless, let's just show you just how good of pieces you can get. So Beast Ward, you know, that's not really going to be that great, but it's okay. It would work as a heavy tank like in the Worm. Human Ward, Empowering Breaker, Refreshing. This one's medium, so I don't think there's much value in medium gear, so that one's not very great. Heavy piece, Beast Ward, Freedom, so this would work for a tank, say maybe in Dynasty when we're fighting the dogs, or else but typically you don't switch over to beast gear there, but you could, or if you want to go tank the Worm. This one's going to be super legit as a DPS, or a light tank. If we wanted to do a light tank build, it would work too. But Human Ward, Refreshing Evasion, Physical Aversion, and I do believe there's a system where you can turn this stat into something different than Constitution, but we're not going to cover that. Just know that you should be able to change this from Constitution to something else. They put a system just with these certain named ones that you get from the dungeon, but that's not what this video is about. This piece here is basically Abyss piece. Is this one of those? No, that's not. But this is one of the drops you can get. This is Abyss heavy tank piece for human. So once we got this drop, we would go ahead and we would replace our current helmet with this helmet, because this is an absolute Abyss piece. You can convert this to strength. You know, that's probably what I would do if I was gonna be using this piece, but we're holding off for now because we're not running the forge right now, but if we get to the point where we start running the forge, I would probably convert this to strength, and this would be my helmet for running the forge up to M10. Human ward, refreshing, those are the two favorite perks that I could have running PvE. And then shirking 4. After dodging an attack, you gain fortify, increasing armor by 4.7% for 4 seconds. Each item with this perk stacks, so that just gives us extra survivability. Fortification works pretty good on a heavy armor user, so I would consider this basically a BIS piece. So that's just one example of some stuff you can get. So tons of beast ward stuff. Okay, here's a corrupted ward, strength, luck. Doesn't help us really in PvE, so that would work though. These are just drops, all that I got. So from running the hatchery, so we're a lot of luck stuff here. So I mean, this stuff, it would work. This would be a good DPS piece, other than the fact it's just a 1 perker. But I know I did get some BIS pieces. So refreshing ward, human ward, that would. It's got focus on it, not great, so it would work for a healer, but not really what you're looking for. That was from something else. Heavy, this perfect piece here. Corrupted ward, refreshing ward, which is very legit, not my absolute go-to, but and then we have constitution, so this would be an awesome heavy tank corrupted piece. So you can see just how awesome this is, because you're going to get tons of pieces. This piece right here, this would be a BIS piece for, you know, obviously you could say BIS would be a 3rd perk as well, but this is a BIS 2 perker for Doing the Worm. Beast ward, refreshing, dexterity. You know, there's some of the jobs in the worm are going to be bow users, so dexterity is awesome. But even if you're not a bow, you are going to be wanting split stats. So even if you're running a strength main weapon, typically you're still going to want to have some split stats with dexterity. So this is an absolute BIS 2 perker. You do want some weapon perks too if you're running the worm, but just an example, this would be an absolute viable piece for running the worm. Medium, we're not going to talk about that because medium's kind of eh. Angry Earth Ward, heavy armor breaker, so this would be a perfectly good tanking piece for running the Genesis. Empowering breaker doesn't really help us though, but just some examples of some of the stuff we're gonna get. That's okay, but not great. I know I did get some other pretty much BIS 2 perkers. Where are we at here? Right here, Angry Earth Ward, refreshing. A light glove and its intelligence. So you could, you know, Fire Staff does work pretty good in Genesis, but it's still not as good as melee. I do suggest to go melee. But the other thing this would work awesome for is a Rapier Ice Gauntlet build, which is very, very strong. And this is a BIS 2 perker for that type of a build. So there you go, another BIS 2 perker, so to speak. So there's unfortunately intelligence. That would have been super nice. Corrupted ward, fortifying shield rush if this was strength or con, or even dex. But so we have many legit pieces. Okay, this one would be perfect. A heavy head. Some people are scared of dexterity as a tank, but it's not that big of a problem. Our sword does also scale off of dexterity, so strength is definitely preferable, but this one would work just perfectly fine as a tank. Corrupted ward, refreshing evasion. So that's why running the running the hatchery is so nice. You're gonna get yourself some really viable gear. You're gonna get some BIS pieces, you're gonna get some near BIS pieces, and then you're gonna get a bunch of pieces that are pretty that's not that great, but it's going to work to get us started. So definitely worth to go run the hatchery. And like I said, my first video, I would strongly suggest taking that route to get you started, because you're not wasting any time. You know, it can take you a long time to farm up the proper gear. So, you know, sure, we get a abyss piece for human, we get another pretty good piece for corrupted, another really good piece for corrupted, another really good piece for the worm. But you can see after, you know, we're gonna have to piecemeal everything together, versus if you can go to the TP, the trading post, and buy yourself a full M10 legit set for 10k, that, well, you're not wasting time farming. But it obviously depends on what you're trying to get out of the game. For some people, that is the enjoyment of the game, is spending time farming up your gear. But if you want to keep things moving along and you want, you know, your enjoyment is running the dungeons versus collecting the pieces, I would suggest you just go to the TP and buy yourself up a full legit M10 piece for 10k, like my other video suggested. Or on the cheap, you know, honestly, that set that I showed you, I'm on a different character now. These are all the pieces that I bought. They're maybe slightly less good because they're all just one perkers, but I bought all 5 of these pieces for roughly 80 gold. But I didn't get so lucky when I showed you this video. The gear was a little more expensive, but we did come out with a little bit better setup. Honestly, we came out with a setup that would be legit to run you all the way up to M10 for 1,000 gold total. So let's go ahead and show you the walkthrough. Oh shoot, I don't have a shield on. So right up the bat, you're gonna see that I made a little mistake. I forgot to slot my shield on when I walked in. Not ideal, because the main big AoE taunt, my shield wasn't on. It requires a shield, and I cannot do that taunt if I do not have a shield on. But it's still not the end of the world. We're gonna make it work. We're gonna run around. We have our shockwave taunt that we're gonna use. It's a much smaller radius. We can only taunt things within 4 meters, and our shield, we can taunt things within 8 meters, I think it is. So not ideal, but the first wave, it's pretty darn easy, so it's really no worries. But once the first wave ends, we go ahead, we just throw a random shield on, just to make sure we have our taunt. So, and our other abilities too, because all 3 abilities we have selected right now require a shield. So there you go. We go right in the middle of everything. We drop our big AoE taunt, and then we try to gather it in the middle. And well, you can see there's all the mages out on the outside. But so we get all the melee gathered up, we taunt them all, and well, gather them up nicely so our team can take them out quite easily. And then we just kind of run around and we try to grab the aggro of the rest of the things so our DPS and healers can do their job. So a little bit messy on this one, just stuff kind of all over the place. But the first group of melee, you know, we got the nice taunt off, and our team was easily able to just kill that nice grouped up stuff. But all the range stuff, they can be pretty annoying. So in case you're wondering what my attributes were, I think I was at 300 con on this. You definitely could go less, and I actually forgot to set my attributes. I just came in, and whatever my attributes happened to be after I put my gear on, that's what we went with. And it did happen to be right at 300 con, so definitely could get away with like 200 con or something. And that way we could do a little bit of damage too. We can't do much damage here. And you know, in my video I did show you buying some Bane weapons. I didn't have human Bane weapons on in this walkthrough. This is a different character than the one that I just showed you buying the gear for, so you're gonna do a little bit better damage than I'm doing, because well, you bought those nice cheap Bane weapons, so those Bane weapons are gonna help you do some extra damage. So just swapped out to a little bit better shield. I just threw the most convenient one on at the moment, but Not that this one's any better. It's not a human ward or nothing, but you got the human ward shield since I showed you buying that dirt cheap human ward shield. But yeah, you could probably go 200 con. You can probably even could go 100 con. You should have some incredible survivability with your build. Full heavy, full ward, you know, tons of fire resistance, and honestly, with experience, you could go down to 5 con with that build. But I just jumped right into this run after I threw my gear on. I forgot to play with my attributes, and well, that's probably the only thing that ended up making me survive at one point. If you fail a wave, it's not the end of the world. You can just go ahead and restart it. But most of our team ended up dying on the very last boss, and our healer was dead, so we didn't have any heals, so that's how we almost died. But just having incredible survivability, and as a tank, that is basically our job. So this part, it's going to spawn in a bunch of ads, and ideally the DPS are going to bring the ads to you and the boss, and you're going to try and get a taunt off on them, and then your whole team can just AoE everything down. But sometimes you're going to see your DPS or your healer, they're getting chased by the ads, and you know, if they know what they're doing, they're going to bring the ads to the tank. They're going to bring the ads to the boss, and then you'll AoE everything down. But sometimes they get caught up, they don't know what to do, and they run around scared around the outside edge. And sometimes, well, you might just have to go and chase them down. The problem with these ads, if they manage to survive long enough, and they don't get taken out, they end up, well, they turn into huge ads that do a lot more damage, and well, they're just a big pain. So ideally the DPS, the healer, they're going to bring the ads to you. So the nice thing about having a tank is, well, predictability. So obviously that one DPS, he was fighting on the same side as the tank, but the rest of the DPS, that one DPS that got killed, but the other DPS, well, either they're survivable enough that they can attack on the same side of the tank, or if they're smarter, they're going to go on the opposite side of the tank. That way they'll do more damage because they get the guaranteed back crits, and well, it just makes it easy. If you don't have a tank holding aggro, the boss kind of jumps all over the place. So nothing wrong with having one tank that his job is to just survive and hold aggro. So we're getting to the very last boss, and you're gonna see that, well, at this cheap build, we're roughly, I think, 560 gear score or something. You know, obviously we're 590 plus with all of our gear, but since our expertise isn't leveled up yet, it meets in the middle. But so even the gear that I just showed you buying for 1,000 gold, absolutely everything, you're gonna have even more survivability than I did with this build, because I did not put the extra gems in this time on this character. You know, we have just the amulet, and we have one gem in one piece of gear. So you'll have even more survivability if you do what I did on, you know, my build that I showed you buying everything for 1,000 gold. And you're also going to do more damage than you see me doing here, because you have those Bane weapons, and I didn't slot Bane weapons on this character. But it's worth it to buy those Bane weapons, just dirt cheap. So that's definitely something that I'll be doing on this character. This is my alt, and well, it was the main character that I showed you buying that full gear set on, just because, you know, I don't have as much gold to spare on my alt, but I can afford on my main character to buy a full set for 1,000 gold, just for the purpose of a walkthrough video. So this boss, I mean, it's pretty basic. We just try to hold aggro as much as we can. We apply weaken as much as we can. We're taunting whenever we can. And other than that, we're just following the boss around. And we'll show you when we get to the flame waves, kind of what we do there. It kind of depends, but we did have a healer, or we did not have a healer left when the flame wave started. So that made us have to play a lot more safe. But other than that, for the most part, as long as there's a heal, you just stack on the boss, you stack in the heals, and you're gonna be good to go. So this little part, he says stop, drop, and roll. If you're inside of a heal, you don't have to worry about it. You can ignore it. But if all the healers are dead, like you're going to see happens later in the fight, well, you are going to have to. So right here you can see we are in a heal, and we're going through, the flames are coming over us. We can just tank the flame waves when we are sitting in a heal. But when we do not have a heal to sit in, we are going to have to try and avoid the flame waves. But anytime we are sitting in heals, we don't have to worry about that stop, drop, and roll thing. So that stop, drop, and roll, it puts a dot on you that hits pretty hard. But if you are sitting in heals, it doesn't matter. Once the healer dies though, it does matter. So right here, I didn't realize our healer was dead, and I got really low on health. So you can see there's that fake heal down, but our healer's dead and they're casting it from spawn. So even though the heal shows up on the ground, it doesn't actually work. So now that the healer's dead, we have to avoid the flame waves. But you could see I was too far away. So I just had to eat one flame wave, and then I said, well, I'm going to eat the second flame wave too because I have enough health. But you know, if I ate all of the flame waves, I would have been dead. So once the healer's dead and you can't just stack on the boss inside of a heal, well, there you can see this little animation of flames on us. You have to keep dodging until you're out of stamina, and that dot goes away. But we're almost dead. We're almost dead, but we're somehow just barely staying alive. So our survivability, even though the build I showed you, me Bane, you're gonna have even more survivability than this build because you got tons of flame resistance, and you're gonna do more damage, and that damage along with your leeching ring is gonna actually give you even more survivability yet, because leeching is for the percentage of damage you do, and you're going to heal more when you're sitting on the boss and attacking it. You're going to do more damage, so you're going to do more leeching. So this is kind of a good run through just because it gives you a few examples of a little bit of everything. When you're sitting in the heal, you can afford to sit on the boss and just tank the flame waves. But when you're not, you're gonna have to look for the break in the waves and try to avoid all of the flame waves. So unfortunately, all of those heals, they're phantom heals, so to speak, which it's better honestly if the healer doesn't drop those phantom heals from spawn, because, well, it can throw you off for a loop. So when we got a long ways to go, we turn backwards and we run to try and make that gap. But so we got a few of us that managed to survive through the whole shebang, and whatever. Healers are dead, so we gotta play it super safe. But you know, at this point, if we did die, it's all good. It's not the end of the world. We can just run it back. It's not like it's our, you know, we can't be expected to survive without a healer, but it is good if you can, you know. Help the healer out, even though they went down. Try to finish off the last of the boss, and, well, there you have it. So let's stop and take a look at the gear we happen to get for our very first run in the hatchery on our fresh level 60 account. So you get the hatchery spoils, you get 7 of those each week. I'd recommend to try to do at least 7 a week. So even if you're not counting on this for your PVE gear because you were smart and you went and bought a full set of PVE gear, that way you don't have to waste weeks and weeks farming it, well, it still doesn't hurt to go ahead and run at least 7 a week, because the hatchery spoils can be pretty darn nice. You can see we open it, and looky here, we get a BIS tanking piece. Look for how beautiful that is. Human ward. If you are trying to get some awesome freebie gear, this is BIS heavy tanking gear. It's just BIS. So yeah, there you go. Strongly suggest get yourself set up for the hatchery. Go run that. Go run 7 a week or so. Even more if you want to keep grinding. But honestly, I'd just suggest to buy yourself up a set, and that way you're good to go. You don't have to worry about farming everything up.